Alpine has just shocked the grid, and mostly their own firm and employees, as Renault's Formula One engine program will end ahead of Alpine's planned transition to customer Mercedes power in 2026. What does this mean for the F1 grid and for Alpine's employees? And is this the start of a bigger plan? Could they be selling the whole team anytime soon? Renault has been weighing up whether to shut down its factory F1 engine program at Viry in France before F1's next engine cycle starts in 2026 for a long time. But now they have finally revealed it really is shutting down. The French manufacturer's plan to end its works program was met with a fierce response by the Alpine Racing Works Council, which represents Alpine's engine workers and has been putting as much pressure as it can on Renault to change its mind. Work on the new 2026 Renault power unit is already underway, but Renault has decided that its Alpine F1 team would utilize customer power for the 2026 regulations reset. A declaration basically confirming Renault's decision to halt its F1 engine project highlighted its plans for a new high-tech engineering center to be dubbed Hypertech Alpine at the site of its F1 engine base, exactly what Alpine is presenting as Viry's new mission. As a result of the consultation process with the employee representatives, during which discussions were constructive and an independent assessment was conducted, Alpine's management confirms its project to transform the site into a center of engineering and high-tech excellence by late 2024, the release said. Formula One activities at Viry, excluding the development of a new engine, will continue until the end of the 2025 season. Viry will continue to support the present F1 power units, which have been locked in development since 2022 and are only changeable for reliability until the end of 2025. Alpine has claimed that each engine project participant would be given a separate duty inside the transformation project. It pledges that a dedicated unit made up of management, human resources, and employee representatives will be implemented to work on the various measures to support the transformation, particularly the training programs needed to ramp up the new projects. There was no mention of a Mercedes customer arrangement, which has yet to be confirmed. Aston Martin is transitioning from Mercedes to factory Honda power in 2026, potentially opening way for Alpine to join McLaren and Williams as Mercedes customers. Renault has continuously trailed behind competing engine manufacturers since the introduction of hybrid engines in 2014, failing to build on their extensive title success in both the V10 and V8 eras. Alpine had a poor start to 2024, and while it has made up some ground lost over the winter, it has scored only 2 points since F1's summer break and is on track to finish 9th in the Constructors' Championship, which would be the lowest position Team Enstone has finished in since its first year back in F1 as a works entry in 2016. Staff at Viry have criticised the decision, which they believe is unjustified, despite the financial savings that Alpine would get by choosing the customer way rather than supporting its own entire engine program. However, after a review of Alpine's F1 strategy by Renault CEO Luca De Meo and new advisor Flavio Briatore early this year, it became evident that using Mercedes engines was the desired long-term solution. In addition to the financial rewards, completing the acquisition would provide Alpine with access to an engine that should ensure competitiveness, as it now has an engine that is underpowered in comparison to competitors. But the discontinuation of its F1 engine program will further fuel speculation that Renault is preparing to sell its F1 team. However, when asked, the Alpine Formula One team is not being sold, Renault Group CEO Luca De Meo stated a couple of months ago. The personnel at its Enstone facility were just guaranteed it, and any possible buyer will very certainly be told it is not available. However, every action being made leads in that direction, making it impossible to avoid concluding that this is the most likely outcome. That doesn't imply this will happen right away, or that a price tag will soon be hung on the sign in front of Alpine's UK headquarters. First, because the F1 team ownership industry is a seller's market, there's no reason to present the image of a motivated seller, and Renault would want to maximize the yield from selling. Second, it might take another 18 months or more to play out as a leaner version of the team, a Mercedes customer rather than a fully integrated works team, could potentially ace the new regulations in 2026 and be a contender. But it feels more like a hit-and-hope scenario, with the far more likely outcome being a sale. Here are the essential actions that correspond closely to the playbook you would use if a sale was a very likely outcome. Bringing in Briatore. Flavio Briatore is a deal-maker extraordinaire, and, aside from Bernie Ecclestone, he may be the finest to have worked in Formula One history. If you want to get the most out of an asset that has grown dramatically over time while underperforming, he is the guy for the task. Viry F1 engine project. Closure Alpine has officially stated that it would abandon its in-house F1 effort in favor of a customer contract. And it is rare for a manufacturer team to make such a decision by design, rather than being forced to do so by circumstance. Famine cited Renault's stop-start F1 presence, leaving its works team at the end of 2009, remaining as an engine supplier, and then purchasing back in stone 6 years later, as one of the reasons why the two sides' integration did not function as expected. The history of this team is quite complex. Everybody knows it more or less, Famine said. Renault is deliberately giving up an edge that every F1 team seeks. This definitely lowers its performance maximum, but it also makes it a far more easy offer if you are searching for a buyer in the future. Alpine's priorities. Elsewhere. What was striking about Famine's explanation was that he emphatically stated that resources were being diverted away from Alpine F1 to other aspects of the company's development. This includes other racing initiatives, as well as electric and hydrogen-powered car technologies, as part of Alpine's growth. F1 is a notoriously difficult environment, and entire devotion is required, but not guaranteed for success. While McLaren is now prospering as a Mercedes client, the company had little option because there was no suitable factory partner to work with. Making the choice to downgrade to a customer team is a very different circumstance, and it implies that Group Renault isn't really concerned about winning the F1 championship again. Aside from one fortunate but well-earned victory at the Hungaroring in 2021, the Alpine F1 team has primarily served to raise awareness of its ineffectiveness. Team value. Alpine may have underachieved, but it's still enormously valuable. Last year, Forbes estimated it at $1.4 billion, and while that is a speculative figure, the demand for F1 teams suggests that it may be worth more. Alpine has already sold 24% of the organization to an investor group, one of which is said to be dissatisfied with what has happened since it invested in the team, implying that it still has roughly $1 billion in assets, according to Forbes. If Alpine and Renault Group truly want to redirect expenditure elsewhere, selling off an underperforming but valuable business would seem sensible. If you can't win with your F1 team and are actively limiting your chances of doing so, and the Mercedes transfer may be a pragmatic decision that increases the likelihood of decent performances, but decreasing your chances of winning F1, then surely the next obvious step is to sell it. Potential buyers. F1's recent ascent has resulted in a slew of interested parties surrounding and expressing an interest in purchasing team ownership. Some even have the resources to pull it off. While Andretti appears to be the obvious possibility, it has no interest in acquiring what it considers to be a failed team. However, there are lots of others available, and this pared-down squad combined with a signed and sealed Mercedes agreement may be more tempting than one that requires disentangling from Viry. And, with the great deal-maker Briatore at the helm, a reduced team structure, a Mercedes partnership, and the opportunity to return to respectability in terms of performance over the next several years, this is a team that is changing in a way that makes it extremely enticing. It's possible that Renault's approach is truly motivated by a desire to reach the pinnacle of F1 and maintain control of the team eternally. If that's the case, it's going about it in an odd way that has all the signs of a sales pitch. Alpine and Renault deny any rumours of a sale, and there's no evidence to back up their claims. But we all know denial is the first step of admittance. So, will we see Alpine put up a for sale sign anytime soon? And what will this mean for F1? Could we see a team like Andretti of High Tech join the grid? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.